Younger me, if I could reach across time and sit beside you right now, I wouldn't tell you to work harder. I wouldn't warn you about the mistakes or the heartbreaks or the nights you'll wonder who you've become. I'd tell you this: the moment you think your life is falling apart is the moment it's finally trying to become real. But I know you wouldn't believe me, because right now you think you have time. You think life is a staircase you climb one step at a time, that you'll feel whole when you get the next job, the right partner, the bigger house, that everything will make sense later, just not now. You don't know yet that now is all you'll ever have. Let me take you back. You're 39, a quiet night. No celebration, you're alone, sitting on the edge of the bathtub, toothbrush dangling in one hand, staring into the mirror. You look the same, but something has cracked. It's not pain, it's not panic, it's the hollow silence that comes when a dream dissolves, the dream of who you thought you'd be. Younger me, that was your real birth. Not the day you graduated, not the first time you fell in love, but the moment your old story stopped working and a new one hadn't yet begun. That's what they never tell you. Life doesn't start when you're young. It starts the moment you're brave enough to say, "This life I built no longer fits who I am becoming. I'm not here alone. I've brought a few others." Carl Jung, who saw that your soul carries a hidden twin, the one you've ignored for too long. Baruch Spinoza, who whispers that your freedom might be just another illusion you inherited. Jacques Derrida, who invites you to take apart the life you were told to live. George Orwell, who shows you that your thoughts may not even be your own. Robert Frost, who once stood at a crossroads with no map and chose anyway. And Henry David Thoreau, who walked away from the noise and finally heard the truth. They're not here to confuse you, they're here to remind you. Because midlife is not a crisis, it is the fire that burns away the person you thought you had to be, so the one who's been waiting underneath can finally step forward. Your real life hasn't even begun, it starts now. Younger me, you've spent your life believing you are free. Free to choose your career, free to love who you want, free to chase what excites you. You've taken pride in it, that sense that you are the master of your fate. That if something isn't working, you just need to try harder, think clearer, take control. But Spinoza would tell you something unsettling. You were never as free as you thought. You were shaped long before you had words to question it. The praise that made you repeat certain behaviors, the fears that made you avoid your own truth, the systems you learned to survive in, the family stories you inherited, the invisible hands that guided your every choice. You thought you chose to be reliable, ambitious, agreeable. But maybe that was just the safest way to be loved. Spinoza saw that human desire isn't random, it's caused. Every feeling has a root, every want has a reason. And most of us go through life reacting to those causes without ever understanding them. He called it necessity, not as a trap, but as a mirror. Because only when we see the forces that shape us can we begin to move differently, to break the chain. Let me tell you a story. There was a boy named Elijah. At 6, he made his mother laugh when he told a clever joke. She looked up from her sadness, smiled and said, "You're going to be the smart one, my little professor." From that moment, he knew who he had to be. He sharpened his wit, read endlessly, became a lawyer. He was successful until 43, when he was alone in a bookstore, tracing his fingers along the spine of a novel he would never write. That night he cried, not from failure, but because he had followed a dream that wasn't his. Elijah didn't need freedom, he needed awareness. So do you. Younger me, think about your deepest ambitions, your greatest fears, your identity even. Ask yourself, who benefits from me staying the same? Whose approval are you still trying to win? What desires are just echoes from the past? The paradox is this: you become free the moment you realize you are not, because that's when you can stop reacting and start choosing, but not choosing the louder life, not the flashier success, choosing with eyes open, with history acknowledged, with your true nature finally allowed to speak. Spinoza once said, "Emotion ceases to be suffering the moment we form a clear and precise picture of it." Younger me, if you can name your programming, you can change your pattern. You don't need to become someone new. You need to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. Younger me, the most painful moment won't be when you lose something. It'll be when you realize you never truly chose it in the first place. There comes a point, and it comes suddenly, when the life you've built starts to feel like a story written by someone else. You try to keep going. You tell yourself it's just burnout, just stress, that everyone feels this way. But beneath it, something deeper is shaking, a quiet knowing that says, this was never mine. Jacques Derrida called it deconstruction, not as an attack, but as an invitation, a peeling back of all the things you've accepted without question, your beliefs, your roles, your values, your identity. Because here's the truth, most of what you call you was never chosen. It was absorbed. From the moment you could understand language, you were given words like man, strong, successful, good, ambitious. And with each word came a weight. You internalized them, played the part. You didn't even realize it was a performance. You were applauded for following the script. And slowly the applause became more important than the authenticity, until the silence hit, until you woke up one day and felt like a stranger in the life you built. Younger me, this is not a crisis, this is clarity. And the pain you're feeling, it's not failure, it's the collapse of imitation. Let me tell you about David. He was everything the world told him to be. A top consultant, polished, married with 2 kids, the house, the car, the legacy plan. But at 42, something shifted. He stopped feeling joy. Even his wins tasted like ash. One evening he sat in the parking lot outside his office and whispered, "I followed every rule. Why does it feel like I've disappeared?" That whisper was the beginning of truth. Because Derrida taught us that the lives we inherit are full of assumptions. And assumptions, unexamined, become cages. We build our prisons out of praise. Younger me, ask yourself, who gave you the words you're living by? What if success was just another word for obedience? What if manhood was a mask someone handed you before you even knew how to speak? What if the version of you the world loved is the version that keeps you small? You don't need to burn your life down. You just need to hold it up to the light, tug at the threads, question the meanings, strip it back until all that's left is something honest. And that's when it begins. Because beneath the life you were given is the life you were meant to create. You are not betraying your past by dismantling it. You are liberating your future. So take off the costume, set down the script, and start writing the story that was waiting for you all along. Because younger me, the play is over. And the real you is finally ready to walk out on stage. Younger me, freedom doesn't disappear all at once. It vanishes quietly, word by word, choice by choice, until all that remains is the performance of a life. And honestly, the scariest part is you won't even know it's happening, because the most powerful form of control is the one that makes you police yourself. George Orwell warned us about authoritarianism, about how governments distort truth, how language can be weaponized. But what he understood more deeply, what most people miss, is that the real battlefield is not out there. It's in here, in the voice that speaks inside your mind. And younger me, I need you to hear this. That voice isn't always yours. You call it caution, professionalism, politeness. But it's control, internalized, normalized, perfected. You were trained to obey without ever being told to. You want to speak up, but your mouth tightens. You want to rest, but your mind calls you lazy. You want to leave, but the echo says you should be grateful. Where did that voice come from? It wasn't born with you. It was installed by praise, punishment, silence, and repetition. And now, it sounds just like you. That's the brilliance of it. You don't need a censor when you've learned to cut your own words. You don't need shackles when your shame does the job better. Let me tell you about Lena. She was a brilliant teacher, loved by everyone. But she wrote poetry in secret. Wild, raw, beautiful words. She never showed them to anyone. Not because they weren't good, but because they were true. And truth to her felt dangerous. One afternoon, a student accidentally found one of her poems. "You wrote this?" he asked. She nodded, smiled politely, but inside something cracked. That was the voice, the one that had told her for 20 years, "Be proper, be useful, don't risk being seen." And in that moment she realized she hadn't been silent. She'd been silenced. Orwell said, "The most effective way to destroy people is to deny and obliterate their own understanding of their history." Younger me, your history includes the things you buried, the talents you hid, the truths you diluted, the parts of yourself you thought were too much, too strange, too dangerous to show. And every time you silence those parts, you become harder to hear, even to yourself. So, how do you rebel? Not with rage, with remembering. Remember who you were before you learned to make yourself acceptable, before you smoothed out your edges, before the applause made you edit your voice, before you confused being liked with being alive. The revolution doesn't start outside you, it starts when you whisper the truth you were never supposed to say out loud. When you tell the voice in your head, "You're not mine." When you stop shrinking to fit into rooms that were never built for your full size. Younger me, the prison was never built of walls, it was built of thoughts you never challenged. But now, you're beginning to see the bars. And once you see them, once you name them, they begin to rust, and the voice that once controlled you, it starts to sound like a lie. And you, finally, begin to sound like yourself. Younger me, the hardest moment won't be the day you lose something. It'll be the day you realize you never chose it to begin with. You'll wake up next to a life that makes sense on paper but feels foreign in your chest. You'll walk through your home, your job, your routine, and it will all feel like a movie set. Convincing, familiar, but hollow. You'll feel the presence of something missing, but you won't know its name, and that's when you'll start remembering. Robert Frost stood at that same place. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. He chose the one less traveled by. People repeat that line like it's a badge of courage, but they forget what came before it. The hesitation, the ache of indecision, the quiet knowing that both paths lead to a different life, and that whichever one you pick, a part of you will always wonder about the other. Younger me, that ache isn't failure, it's the grief of unlived lives. Let me tell you about Clara. She was practical, dependable. At 22, she had a scholarship to study ballet abroad, but her father got sick, so she stayed, got a teaching job, built a quiet life, raised her kids, loved her family. But every now and then, when she was alone, she'd stand barefoot in her living room and close her eyes. And she'd move, just for a moment, just enough to feel the ghost of the dancer she might have been. That ghost never blamed her, but it never stopped dancing either. Younger me, you've stood at many forks. Some you noticed, some you didn't. And the path you're on now, maybe it's the right one, or maybe it's the one that felt safest, easiest, most approved. But now, at midlife, something in you is stirring. A part of you that was buried under obligation and fear. A part that says you are not too late, because here's the secret Frost never said out loud. The road not taken isn't gone. It's waiting, and it won't ask you to start over. It will ask you to begin. So ask yourself, what dream did you defer because it didn't make sense? What passion did you trade for practicality? What life did you leave waiting at the edge of the woods, hoping one day you'd come back? Midlife is not a dead end, it's another crossroads, and this time, younger me, you know the cost of silence, so choose the path that scares you. Choose the one that feels like coming home to a version of you you left behind. Because once you step onto that road, the one that's finally yours, every step will echo with something you haven't felt in years, yourself. Younger me, the world has lied to you. It told you life is about addition, that to matter you must accumulate. Achievements, titles, connections, speed, stuff. It told you that your value lives in what you produce, how you perform, and what you post. But Thoreau would place his hand gently on your shoulder and say, no, not more. less. He walked into the woods not to abandon the world, but to hear it again, to listen to the whisper beneath the noise, to see if life, reduced to its essentials, still held meaning. And what he found was this: not only does it hold meaning, it holds you. Younger me, you've been taught to chase everything at once, to never pause, to say yes to every opportunity, every invitation, every demand. But all that saying yes has left you nowhere. Your calendar is full, your heart is not. There was a man named Elias, corporate executive, beloved husband, 3 phones, 2 mortgages, 1,000 unread emails. He was so in demand that he forgot what he actually wanted. One Sunday, his daughter asked him to come outside and watch the clouds. He said, "Give me 10 minutes." She said, "You always say that." That night, he turned off his phone. For the first time in years, he didn't check anything. And in the silence, he heard something unfamiliar: peace. And it terrified him. Because when you slow down, you can finally hear the truth. And sometimes the truth says you've been busy avoiding yourself. Thoreau wrote, "Our life is frittered away by detail." Simplify, simplify. But simplification is not about minimalism. It's not about white walls or clean desks. It's about clarity. What if the life you're trying to fix isn't broken? What if it's just bloated with shoulds, with guilt, with the weight of what was never meant to be yours? Younger me, simplification takes courage. It means saying no when everyone expects a yes. It means walking away from applause that no longer nourishes you. It means choosing rest when you've been taught that rest is weakness. But here's the paradox. The smaller your life becomes on the outside, the larger it feels on the inside. When you finally release what doesn't matter, what remains is you. Not the you they admire, the you that remembers how to breathe, how to be, how to feel sunlight on your skin, and not need to photograph it to prove you were there. That's the life that begins at 40, not one that's bigger, one that's finally real. And in that stillness, younger me, you will hear something you forgot existed, yourself, unfiltered, unrushed, unapologetic, and the moment you hear it, you'll never go back. Younger me, you thought life began when you figured it all out, when everything finally clicked, when you had the answers, the house, the confidence, the control. But now you see the truth. Life doesn't begin when you arrive. It begins the moment you admit you're lost and start listening to the voice you buried beneath the noise. Carl Jung taught you that your missing pieces aren't your weakness. They are the gateway to wholeness. Spinoza revealed that freedom is not about control, it's about clarity. Derrida showed you that meaning isn't inherited, it's constructed. Orwell pulled back the curtain on the voice that was never yours. Frost brought you to the crossroads and dared you to choose yourself. Thoreau stripped everything away so you could finally see what remains. You are not late, you're just now arriving. This is not a breakdown, this is your return. You are not starting over, you are starting finally. So take off the mask, set down the performance, walk barefoot into the life that was waiting behind the one you thought you had to live. Younger me, this is not a crisis, this is your birth. And this time you get to be awake for it. This time you get to choose, this time you get to live.